Welcome to the new edition of Common Man Adventure video blog. This one is about mind games. They make life interesting. In 2016, I addressed that very issue in a Horse and Rider magazine. And by the way, I'm on page 12 in that magazine. Even though it talks about senior or getting involved with equestrian activities, as a senior, I bet many of the things I'm about to talk about, most of you, or many of you older adults, so-called, or whatever it's so-called, can relate to the things I'm about to talk about. I began riding horses rather late. I was 60-ish when I started. But learning to ride is not just as simple as getting on the horse, taking off, and learning some maneuvers. There's a pattern to it, like learning your hand and foot positions, and learning the coordination, and learning how to use the equipment. And all of this has to be processed in your brain at the same time. But, it's not only just me against the horse, and the horse against me, and me against the trainer, and me against even me. And all that stuff sometimes will happen separately, and sometimes it'll happen all together. Occasionally, frustration sets in. But mostly, as I was doing that, and still doing it, I get happy. But there's some things that have to be done before, as you get older, before you can put in new stuff. There's a lot of old junk and wrong thinking about horses and about other things that's up there in that brain that you gotta dump. That's your human processor. In my case, my storage bins are pretty full. So I obviously believe that in order to put some new stuff in, I got to take some old stuff out. But that's a problem, because at the same time I'm trying to do that, delete and put in, I have to deal with my horse, Aztec at the time. But when you're going around the arena, that processing has to take place rather quickly, and that becomes a problem. At least that's my story, and I'm going to stick to it. Other things besides the brain plays with this to add to that game. Muscles. They have, as you get older, they have restricted movement. They simply don't respond as quickly. If they do respond at all, it's not as quickly. It's a law of nature. The muscles are supposed to, this is kind of how the whole thing is supposed to work, as we know. The muscles are supposed to communicate with the brain. But, for instance, the trainer will give me a command. My ears hear it, if they do hear it, and that message is sent there to the brain. The brain then sends it out to the appropriate muscles, and then they respond to the command, and the maneuver is accomplished. As I said, that's the way it's supposed to work. But sometimes the brain kind of gets muddled. And here's what actually happens. The trainer gives me a command. The ears hear it, and then they send that message to my brain. My brain then sends it out to the appropriate muscles. The appropriate muscles sends back a message to the brain which says, I ain't doing that today. and so my brain has to find another way to get around that, which of course further complicates the whole command. But it took some doing, but eventually, I know in my case, I eventually learned how to adjust all those things, the brain, the ears, the muscles, they all learned how to adjust. And now, as a better writer, obviously I've dumped some bad habits, and there's more room in my brain, and some bad thoughts about horses and that. There's room in my brain to notice some other things. And I noticed as I was learning this thing, there was some stuff that was happening, but my processor wasn't able to deal with it. It was there, it was just too much information, wasn't able to deal with it. Now what happens is I can hear the trainer telling me to raise or lower my toe, or telling me to raise or lower my hands. All that kind of helps me communicate or learn to feel what the horse, the animal that's underneath me. This was, at this time, it was Aztec. And sometimes she says, lift your left cheek pocket, or put your left cheek pocket deeper into the saddle. I can also now hear sometimes I can hear the riders that are waiting their turn to get out in the arena. I can hear them saying that, hey, my ride looks pretty good, or express some concern if I've done something wrong, that I might be about to have an unplanned dismount. Sometimes Aztec and I were struggling, and they would talk about that. And there's that obnoxious bird that I couldn't hear before, chirping, but now I hear it. But now I have the benefit of riding a few years, and I've noticed the communication between me and the horse has significantly, Aztec, has significantly improved. He better understands my body movements, and I understand his body movements. I can actually feel his response to my verbal and physical commands. So definitely riding has helped my old body stay physically and mentally fit. I think that's important as you get older. It also builds confidence. There's an old adage out there, you're never too old to learn. It's true. So have some fun while you still can. So that's it for now. Another video blog coming up next week. I will see you.